They say Bonnie, when your next you drop the last one on repeat. Work it dominantly in D&G, you gotta feed the streets. I've been going through some I don't get paid to spit these verses. I got auntie on my head, cause I've been ducking praise and worship. I see youngest put in hearses, I be really with the youth. Sometimes I lock in on this life and don't have time to hit the boot. My brother just got locked again, he might be facing more than 10. I gotta look out for his kids, I spend my free time clocking in. Rest in peace to Dolph, I'm in the trenches with my Vans on. They gon' let me rock cause I got morals I'm gon' stand on.
Welcome back, man. This is our first time seeing you guys since we did our rapid fire episodes. We did about 5 episodes in about 6 days. We're not going to be doing that type of production on these pods, but we'll definitely do that again at some point. Not anytime soon. You'll definitely still be getting at least 1 pod a week moving forward. And a lot of exciting things happened since the last time we was on here, man. Yeah, man, you guys had the #1 pick. How do you feel about that draft?
Oh, I'm a big fan of it. As you guys are aware of, Hawks Universe did not love the pick. For me, I was always high on Ricochet. I've always told you he helps any team day one, right now. Any team in the NBA. I don't care what your team is, he helps you right now. And the dude is he's a decent on-ball player who has potential to be more than what he is, obviously, as he develops. But he's a phenomenally good off-ball player who specializes in 2 prongs, both the short movement and the small movement being just read and react. If the ball handler is dribbling in, he makes sure he slightly moves to an open spot so he can have a clean shot pocket to shoot. That's something that is not common to find. You don't really see it too much from players. And these are NBA veterans, much less guys that are rookies or 19 years old at best. So this is something that I just think that this kid brings a lot to the table in terms of off-ball movement. He also attacks closeouts exceptionally. He's really explosive about 2 feet. The only thing about him is he has to work on his body, but he does have broad shoulders. So that gives you hope that he can probably be around 210, 215, probably by the time he gets to his prime. But this kid is he's what you call one of those guys who knows how to play possession by possession basketball. And he's one of these kids who understands the value of winning ball. And if you look at his playoff stats, they weren't too far off from Wemby's. Wemby's was giving you 17 and 9 and maybe 2.7 blocks in the playoffs. He was giving you 15 and 7 and 1 block and 1 steal apiece. And this is in the playoffs. He absolutely went off in the playoffs in France. And I think it's a testament to the fact that he's going to come in and he's going to really surprise people with how good he is. And I think he's probably the favorite to be, if not Zach Edey, I think he's the favorite to be Rookie of the Year.
Seriously, I think he's in a really good position. I think the common misconception with him is if you turn on the highlight, you're not going to be wild, not going to be blown away. But if you watch an actual game and see the movements, see the IQ, see the I guess you could say the tool bag that he has on offense and all the little things that he does, you'll be more intrigued with this pick. There was a video going around showing Bronny versus Zachary, and Bronny got the best of him. But I think what people need to realize is it's 2 different types of games. When you're playing at that elite high school level, American teams are going to get up and down and run the floor really well and play a little bit faster than other countries or other programs. And I think that was a result of that. But that's what you see when you put 2 styles against each other. One of those styles is going to get the better of each other. And most times when American teams win those type of games, that's how they do it, with high scoring, up and down, fast pace, getting easy looks because they're pushing the pace. Whereas on the other side, they're thinking about meticulously moving the ball, playing a little bit more fundamental. His highlights are not going to look amazing, you know what I mean? Until you see it on the big stage and you're watching that game. And like you said, that possession-to-possession basketball, you'll see his value for sure. What about Nikola Dorisic, who was one of my favorite players in the draft? How do you feel about that?
I didn't watch too much of him. The most I saw of him was in the combine game. For me, the combine game means a lot because they're going up against actual NBA prospects. I prefer the combine game production. That's what made Jalen Williams move up the board for me, as well as Potts, who got drafted by Golden State last year. From what I've seen in that game, the dude is really good at slashing. He provides you a number of shooting. He's just a scorer. He's just a hot microwave scorer. If you don't know that, you just look at his playoff performance. It's like the ABA over there, but he was putting up like 20 down points a game. He was going crazy in the playoffs. And the guy's just a scorer. He's a bucket. Defensively, he shows some good principles, but it's just that he needs work. To be honest with you, he reminds me of Vic Kretzy, but when we had him last year, the year before, and then when he started working with Quinn and went to the G League, he completely improved his defense. He went from somebody that really didn't play defense that well to somebody like, hey, Vic can probably be good. And it's just, I think development's going to be really important with him. I know that the talk is that he might be drafted stash, and that's just because of the numbers game. And we'll talk more about it with the Murray deal and everything. But he's somebody that I think maybe in a year or two, he'll come over and probably, not this year, but next year for sure. He could be good, man. He could be a starter. He can really, he's young. Like I said, the improvement he's made is substantial. When he's playing this Topic, he was decent. But when Topic left, he just took it to a whole nother level. I think that you got to keep an eye on him and his development because we know Mega has some guys. And we saw it with Jokic. They got some guys.
For sure.
Most people are Nikolai's at Mega.
Seriously. So I think with him, the biggest thing that I say was when I went back and started to scout him and I watched the montages of him taking all his shots, his defense, whatever the case may be, his turnovers, all of those things, I started feeling like wow when I was watching Wemby last year and Bilal kind of popped off the screen. When I was watching Nikola Topic, Nikola did the same thing. He popped off the screen, made me want to go and watch him, and then playing well in the combine. He just does a lot of things the correct way, like that possession by possession basketball again. He has a little wiggle to him. He can really get his shot off in a many different ways. Reminds me of a smaller Danilo Gallinari, those type guys. He has that Mono Ginobili feel to him, where if he gets in the right system, in the right position on a roster, he can really flourish and help your team, either as a perennial sixth man or as a high-level starter. So I definitely like that pick for Atlanta as well.
He does remind me of Manu a little bit. He's just raw. He's just a little raw, more raw than Manu. But Manu was raw when he got drafted. Like when he got drafted, Manu might have been rawer than he is. But development's not linear, so we don't know if he's going to get to that point. But just assume it does get to that point, there'll be a massive steal. But this is the draft. This is the draft we talked about that because of the depth of this draft, the strength of this draft was from 10 to 40. And I said this year's draft is much stronger than last year's draft if you leave the top 10.
Sure.
It's not even close.
For sure. Speaking of that, from 10 to 20, order lottery, what were some of your favorite picks that happened in this draft that were unexpected? I think one of my favorites was Khalil Ware going to Miami.
You that pick?
I like that pick because of what it does for potentially what it does for Bam. Bam is the natural four. I think if Khalil Ware can come in and be effective right away, it really helps Bam. Similarly to how Edie is going to help Jaren, where he moves him to his natural position, and you'll see a lot of flexibility. Only difference is, I don't think Bam is as good of a shooter as JJJ. Khalil Ware having that ability to stretch the floor helps Bam out a lot as well. But I think that was an intriguing pick.
I think the idea is if we can develop Ware, we have, because you got to think about it, they did get a lot out of him. I'm not the biggest fan of Ware's. I'm not the biggest fan of his, what do we call it? No, not work ethic. I wouldn't call it Q score, but I'm not the biggest fan of his template or his
archetype.
Well, not just archetype. His archetype, I actually like his archetype. It's more of his, basically his, not just work ethic, but his personality, his motor, his effort, all of those things I'm not like biggest fan of. But then again, this is the organization that got Hassan Whiteside $70 million.
Yeah.
He earned it. Hassan earned that money. So there's something about Miami that they just do more in regards to they just do more in terms of development than most teams. And they tend to figure out what really makes you tick. And they tend to do it better than just about anybody. So the idea is if Ware hits, he is the ideal fit to Bam because he can stretch the floor. On top of that, he also provides enough length to where he can protect the paint. If it's painted area, he's not that small. I think he got himself up to 235 now. Of course,
a little bit
of give him a couple of years, he could be around 245. And obviously, with him, he's really springy. So he's not with Bam is not, even though Bam can dunk and he's athletic, he's more like an explosive power dunker. Whereas this dude's more twitch. He's more like a blower type of kind of guy. So for him, it's a natural fit in regards to prototype. Yeah. But as we're going to talk about with the Murray trade, you have to be there too. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But I definitely feel like Miami, they're the team that kind of get like they know how to do. They know how to get it out of you. Like we knew Jaime Hawkins was going to be a perfect fit, but like here, where you got to think about it. Bam Adebayo didn't have the. Bam Adebayo wasn't known for having this insane work ethic when he came out of Kentucky. He wasn't known as that. He became that in Miami. So there's just something about the Miami Heat culture that just gets more out of guys than other places. Now, a lot of times I feel like it also comes from your MO. And I think that's what I'm probably thinking of, the MO. I think a lot of it comes from your MO. The guys they draft have a certain MO of a Miami Heat vibe. Yeah. But not everybody has it. Tyler Hero didn't have it. So I like it. It's just, I'm just skeptical because Miami is a place where you're happy that he went. It's just that it's such a hard working organization. And the dude he's up and down.
Yeah. I think it's such a perfect fit because all those things you just talked about. But I definitely want to hear who was one of your surprise.
I'm gonna just give 3 of them, and I'm going to make it really quick. Nikolai Topic, I know he's out for the season, but that guy can play. He's a top 10 pick all day. He can really play. He's 6'6", can really pass the ball. He reminds you a little bit of Ricky Rubio, but he actually can finish inside unlike Ricky Rubio. So it's just he gives you even more than Ricky gives you, and I just feel like in that drive and kick system they got in OKC, I just think that in a couple of years you're gonna be looking at that trip pick. What do they keep getting with this? You're gonna have.
I hate to see OKC better.
And they're going to continue getting better with these moves. It's just Sam Presti. I take my hat off to him. That dude's phenomenal, and I think he's the best drafter in the NBA. And I know he's made mistakes, as everyone has, but he just constantly hits, and he just hits. He hits way more than he misses, and I think that's a testament to him. The other one is Devin Carter. Devin Carter was in my top 10. The Kings getting him. I think that let's just say if they keep Fox and he decides he wants to walk, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but maybe in 3rd, 4th year, Devin Carter might be somebody you're like, oh. And then by the time Devin Carter gets to the second contract, you might be looking at multi-time All-Star Devin Carter. And I said for that too, this is the strongest PG draft since 2000. But Devin Carter, without question, for me is that guy. And of course, Dalton Connect. He was in my top 5 prospects. Dalton is just a scorer. He can slash. He can shoot. Obviously, defense is a bit of an issue, plus age, and that's why he dropped. But if you were looking for somebody who can help you right now score, he really helps the Lakers, because the Lakers' issue really wasn't like the Lakers' issue was like they needed more than just Austin Reeves. They needed more, and I feel like Dalton Connect gives them that more that they're lacking.
Yeah.
So I just felt like that was a good pick. I didn't think it was like a pick for. I understand most people say it's an exceptional pick because he fell so far, but I still don't feel like the Lakers are like the perfect fit for him. I felt like a great fit for him would have been like a team that has that needed shooting, but they also had really good defense to cover up for him. The Lakers defense is just up and down. It just depends on if AD's healthy that day, LeBron's motivated. It's so much goes into it. And with someone like Connect, the NBA is going to be really hard. Like struggling at guarding people in college. And although he's a smart defender, but the problem is he just doesn't move his feet. He doesn't really use his hands all that well either for somebody who uses it exceptionally well on offense. And I'm just not completely sold on the fit, but I am sold on where they got him. And the Lakers getting them, that wasn't something I expected at all coming into that day. So phenomenal pick.
You named a couple of the ones that I would name as well. That Devin Carter fit is perfect to me. I think that's their style of play that Mike Brown leans into. The dribble handoffs, the split action, the plan. Man, it's going to be beautiful. I think
he gets to play with Sabonis.
That's what I'm saying. I think Sabonis is really going to raise his level because of the talent around him this year.
I think he's better than Fox. Like now, of course, but you give him a couple. But he plays possession by possession basketball way better than Fox. Fox is not really a possession by possession guy. He's more of an explosive, springy offensive guy. That's why people say, "Why did you get rid of Halliburton?" But in my opinion, this is like the Halliburton. In my opinion, this is like the Halliburton.
And I think that's what separates Fox from that next tier with like Ja and with Trey, and that's what separates him from that next tier is his inability to be consistent in possession by possession basketball. When he gets hot and he's on, he's a problem. But like you seen in the playoffs, when it matters, it's very hard for him to manufacture that same consistency. which is a reflection of that
But
lack of possession basketball.
before we move on, let's just cover one thing with Devin Carter. He has 4 green checks, 4 green pluses when it comes to Tankathon with defensive rebounds and blocks. He has 3 green pluses when it comes to defensive win shares and defensive box. He's also green for efficiency, wingspan ratio, offensive rebounds, true shooting, offensive box, field goal percentage, and points. And his 3-point shooting is 37.7%, and his free throw shooting is 75%. This is somebody with a 48% 3-point rate. Somebody with close to a projected 3-point percentage of 37%. Look, this is the only thing you don't love about him is maybe the assist ratio. But if you watch the games, it's not that he's a good passer. It's just that the players he have around him just wasn't like really. His athletic metrics are off the charts. Man,
this is what they were kind of expecting from Davion. And now they finally
he's way better. He's
felt that combination of defense and offense. Yeah. Because combination of defense and offense, and they were looking.
I just think that with him, I think the biggest reason why he probably failed, that as far as he failed to 13, is just because of the creativity, the passing creativity, the playmaking. But he's playing with Sabonis, so is that necessary? It's like playing with Jokic. Man, what about I think he could be even better than Jamal Murray. Like, I really think this kid could be better than Jamal. He won't shoot as good as Jamal Murray in his peak, but I think he'll be better than Jamal Murray because he can score in multiple ways. He can rebound like him, and he's a defensive menace. I don't know, man. I think he can. I think there's the way we're going to see this guy is we're going to see him in 8. And like I said, I think the King can low key trade Fox.
I mean,
in my personal opinion,
I say some news in regards to Fox. I think in regards to an extension, I think that might be on the horizon. You might be.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know who I would trade him for, but I would trade him.
I would too. So let's get into Memphis side of things, man. The Memphis draft grade, man. Like, came away with Zach Edey, came away with Cam Spencer, who I know you probably love as well, and Jalen Wells from Washington State, who I honestly thought was out of the draft. I thought he went back to school. So I was a little bit surprised when his name was announced, but I really like Jalen Wells and Washington State as well. But I just wanted your reaction in regards to that honor we got before I say it.
First and foremost, if there's a team that really believes in possession by possession basketball other than like the Hawks right now, it has to be the Grizzlies, which has done it for the last 6 years, and they really believe in it. They're the best players on their board are always going to be guys who know how to play the game and do what you're asked them to do. That's just what they do. They're going to draft that player 9 out of 10 times. And even though a lot of people have in their minds when they think of Memphis, they don't think of it, they think of wild and crazy because Ja actually does follow direction in the game. Yeah, I know off the court he has his NBA young boy moments, but on the court that guy is that guy. Like, he really is that guy. And they got the #1 player on my draft board, which is Zach Edey. We're talking about somebody per 36 average 28.4, 13.7, 2.3 assists a game, 2.4 blocks a game. We're talking about somebody who's 7'5", 300 pounds with a 7'10" and it's 0.75 wingspan. We're talking about a kid that absolutely dominated college basketball for the last 2 years in ways we haven't seen since Ralph Sampson and Wayman Tisdale. Oh, and even David Robinson. And as far as dominance wise, Shaq. I just think people think people missed on him. I really truly believe every team that didn't draft him, including my Hawks, missed on Zach Edey. And I understand why people miss on Zach Edey. The defensive things are a bit questionable, but of course that's not as big of an issue with the Grizzlies because you have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's one of the best free safeties in basketball for a big man. And 60 wins. That's the best team in the last year. That's the best team in the last year.
I hope so.
No, it is.
We got some things.
And Zach's gonna win Rookie of the Year more than likely.
That's my hope. I think some people just make the Grizzlies look smart, and I think the Grizzlies just a lot of times we just do the logical thing. Like the Desmond Bain thing was logical. The Brandon Clark thing was logical.
That was one of my top. That was one of my top players on the board too. Was Brandon Clark? I had Brandon Clark in my top. He was in my top 6 prospects in that class. And what was that? 2019. Yeah. So
Even the G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams thing, once they fell that far, it's the logical thing. The Cam Spencer thing this year, the Jalen Wells thing this year. They continue to make us look so smart when in reality, we're just the logical team.
Cam
This
Spencer
player
is
should not
so good at basketball. People do not realize it. And I think it's because they try to focus on what does he do well for the NBA. But I keep telling you, if you just watch that dude play, he can play ball like nobody else. He's always cutting. He's always wanting the ball. He's always making the right cuts on the ball. He's always making the right passes. He can make every type of pass. Yes, he's not a playmaker from the standpoint of I'm just going to dribble and create for someone else. But he's a quick decision maker. He's always making the right cuts. He knows how to play possession by possession basketball, and he knows how to add value in the limited minutes he may get.
Yeah, he reminds me of guys who do it the right way. The T.J. McConnells, the Pat Connaughton, like.
That's what I would
Like,
compare him to. I would actually compare him to TJ. I would compare him to a taller TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would probably compare him to. Maybe not as much ball
Probably a
handling.
better shooter. Probably a
better shooter coming out. More size. I would ask. That's actually a good comparison. TJ McConnell. It moves off the ball better than TJ, but that's because he's more of a 2. He could play the 3 a little bit too, but in college he could. I don't know if it's in the NBA. But
he's bulky. Like I was talking in some of the spaces on Twitter post draft. He's bulky. Like the way he gets his shot off when he drives a lot of times it's based off pace and uses bumps. Not SGA, but SGA, how he uses bumps at angles even on releases to get his shot off. He has a really good in-between game. And he uses his body really well in those situations. But I think Jalen Wells is probably going to be one of the steals of this draft. I think being 6'7" with the three level scoring ability that he had, coming from D2, and honestly, he didn't really get a chance to really step into a green light situation on this Washington State team until the middle of the year. He had some really big games on the big stage, even in the NCAA tournament. And honestly, if they would have went a little bit further, I think he doesn't make it far. If they go a little bit further into the NCAA tournament, there's no way he makes it this far. With his IQ, some of the same things you talked about with Cam Spencer, he has it, except he's 6'7" with a lot more wiggle and bounce and just NBA quality to him.
Shoot better, can shoot. Can shoot.
Yeah. His form is
smart.
a lot more aesthetically pleasing, a lot higher arc. I think he can mess around in 4 or 5 years, mess around and be the best player in this class. I doubt it because I'm really high on Edie. But that's more of a compliment than a slight to anybody else in this draft class.
It was a good class if you were trying to get somebody from point guards, 2s, and centers. It was a good class for that. And of course, even so, Ricochet, I consider him more like a 2, to be frankly honest with you, at least initially. And
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Murray trade happened a little bit at post draft as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Murray trade as well as your draft haul and how you think all of that comes together. How do you feel about that trade?
The Murray trade was good to me. Once again, a lot of Hawks fans didn't like it. They were like, we got a bench player and another bench player who's always hurt for our 22 5-5 guy who got better since he's in Atlanta. Since he got in Atlanta, he's better now than he was with the Spurs. So we developed him and got him. He became a better player. So how can we justify this trade? And my argument is simple. Atlanta's doing what Dallas did when they got rid of Porzingis. They're doing what I've said they should do for Coach Vaughn, which is Atlanta needs to draft. Atlanta, you've had Trey here since 2018, and not one year that I can recall have you ever really built this team around his strengths. But the year they kind of squad when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, they got lucky. They basically got Tony Snell, which was like a bad contract, and they just kind of as a throw-in, and he became somebody that was really productive for them because we didn't realize how important small movement was to Trey's game. And of course, that was the only year Tony Snell was on our team, and we never seen small movement again on our team since Tony left. But it was very important. And we had Solo, who was a hard worker. He kind of he could move a little bit around the short moving game.
It's crazy
that was
connecting because he ended up coming to Memphis and making an impact.
That's what I think. We from Memphis. We gave you guys. He came to Memphis right after.
I think you guys might have gave him to us, if I'm not confused. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he went to Atlanta, but he came to Memphis and left a really big impact on this fan base. So
he's a good player. Like, he doesn't look like nothing because you don't see the skill, but he's always making the right plays mentally. And you really understand how important that is when you don't have it.
Yeah.
If you have it, I don't think you understand how important it is. And when you don't have it, is when you notice, like, man, we don't do this. And so look at the players Atlanta got, man. This guy was number 4 on my board. I think Dyson Daniels. He was number 4 on my board when he came out. I was super high on Dyson Daniels because you got to think about it. Prototypically, he's a secondary ball handler. He can lock down. He can guard 1 to 4. He basically can guard 1 to 5. Like his statistics, his POA statistics off the charts. He can defend his butt off. He's quick with his hands. He's smart. He can play right reads.
He reminded me a little bit of Lonzo Ball coming out, like the things. But
he can play make
a lot of it. And
he can drive and kick. And that's the biggest issue with New Orleans. They didn't have shooting. So it's really hard. Like Atlanta got shooting. That's one thing Atlanta got. But he didn't really have that in New Orleans. And I just felt like he would be like the perfect fit. Like with his ability, I felt like his shooting had potential. I felt like he had potential to be like a 38% shooter, probably 70% free throw shooter in time when he develops. But we had in New Orleans, and I don't necessarily know if it was hard for him to develop the shooting because of how much the defensive pressure was, because they knew New Orleans couldn't really shoot. Now he's playing in Atlanta, where you got Trey, and people are going to be worried about him. Is he going to have a lot more opportunity offensively to do more? And the thing is, what I also liked about him is he didn't demand touches that much. He didn't demand too many touches, whether it was in the G League or New Orleans. And you got to be like that if you're going to play with Trey, because I believe Trey Ball coming back. And I think Trey Ball's the best way to play.
Yeah, and I like the Larry Nance pickup as well, because he gives you the Clint Capella lob threat, train and roll, but he also gives you that pop variation that you didn't have. And he's gonna play hard every single time. He gives you the ability to switch on defense. Exactly. He fits that what Quinn had in Utah. So it's really good to see Quinn.
With Niang, he just kind of fit that. A little better than Niang though. I think he's better than that. Niang is more like a mid-tier backup, whereas Larry Nance is like a high-end backup, but a low-end starter. He definitely helps the Hawks because people always talk about the John Collins trade, but the John Collins trade to JJ was a massive upgrade as a starter over John Collins. It was the problem with us was it was the backup position because we had JJ in it before, and now we had no one because we didn't replace John Collins because we didn't want to pay the tax. And of course, it hurt us because the backup power forward spot was bad for us. And we ended up having to try to put Bay in it. And Bay was more of a 3 in Quinn's system. And even though he could play the 4 in Nate's system, Quinn's system's just a lot more responsibility defensively. And that just wasn't really Bay's thing.
He's not quite Joe Ingles or Jay Crowder on the defensive end. Wrap this up, though.
Don't forget about EJ Liddell. We got EJ Liddell, too.
Oh yeah. Oh, he did. He got added that deal. I like him coming out as well.
Yeah, he's good.
So I'm in this draft class for Atlanta. Give you guys a grade. I'll go B+. Just I don't know how Nikola is gonna translate quite yet. If he's gonna be drafting stash or not. So I go B+, just immediacy, not because of talent or the hall itself, but
I still think it's an A. I still think it's an A because here's the thing. I don't think there's not going to be many rookies that play next year on this draft. Maybe like 8. And like really play. Not just get a bunch of injuries happening, they play 10, 20 games, like really play. It's going to be like 8 to 10 guys at most. And it's probably like Castle. It's like, okay, Ricochet, Castle. I don't even know if Sar's going to really play like that. It's just not going to be many, right? Edie obviously is going to play. Klingling is going to obviously play. But other than those guys, it's just not that many. And Atlanta has one of those guys. And if you got one of those guys, you got to give them a high score, right? If it's immediate.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had the number 1 pick. So it's easy to say A. Only reason I say B+ and A, man, that's 89 in grade. But I'm curious to see what Nikola looks like because I really like him, but I'm interested to see what he looks like. Sure, I'm probably gonna feel an A+. If depending on how he translates, I'm gonna be feeling A+ with this draft class that you guys got. But for right now, I'll say B+ and just be like. But in terms of the Grizzlies, what would you give the grade?
It's instantly an A. Instantly A, just off Edie. But I really like the Cam Spencer pick, so for me, it's an A+. I thought they had the best draft.
Okay, I like that.
And
I'll
some people felt like it was the Timberwolves that had the best draft, but I didn't feel that way.
I'll give them an A as well. I just feel like the value that they got in the second round.
A or A
Both of
plus.
those guys, I'll just give them an A. Only reason I won't say A plus yet is because how our system is, like I said, immediacy. We have for guys in terms of development. So even though they might show that they're ready right away, they still might not necessarily get that chance just because of the way our development system is. It'll be interesting to see what the developmental plan is for both of those guys. Are we going to put both of them on a two-way? I'm pretty sure that Jalen Wells is going to be a guaranteed contract, but I'm just interested to see what we doing with them in terms of like contractually what we do with them. So I'll just go 8 for right now, just based on, because if we put both of them on a two-way, you know how that works, man. Two ways
Are hard to convert.
exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But you talked Minnesota. I wanted to talk about Minnesota really fast because Dillingham was one of my surprise pick and favorite picks. But I think the Terrence Shannon Jr., they also got my guy Bobby Clinton. I like those guys, but it's going to be really hard for them guys to see the floor, in my opinion. It's going to be really hard for Terrence Shannon Jr. and Bobby Clinton to see the floor right away. So, if I'm
You
just
think so?
talking-
You think so?
think
They're
so,
gonna lose a
man.
lot. They're gonna lose a lot this offseason.
Who are they lose? Kyle Anderson, right?
Now, I think there's another wing they're gonna be losing. They're gonna be losing. They're gonna be losing a lot of their point guards. I think even Nick. No, he's gonna be there. He's still gonna be there.
Okay.
I think he has
If
one
they
year.
got Jaden, if they got Jaden Hill and they got Pat, Rudy, Lastier, Rob's gonna bring that backup point guard, so that role is filled as well. Clinton and Terrence Shannon are kind of gonna be battling with each other to play the same position. Shannon can pretty much play 1 through 3, but Clinton 3 through 4. Yeah, I don't know. He can affect Kyle Anderson role, but is he gonna be able to fill it right away? I'll have to see what Minnesota does around the market.
They're gonna have to figure it out because I don't necessarily know if Clem's going to even get a ton of playing time year one, but they got to figure it out because they're going to be their money is going to be real limited for them. They're like they're on the fringes of the margins right now, man. They're like from the fringes, and they have roster spots, and so it's going to be difficult. And to me, I felt like the Dillingham move was perfect because from the standpoint of they understand that Dillingham still has development he needs to do, and the one thing about them is they got Conley. But Conley can teach Dillingham to some degree exactly what to do. So the idea is Conley's going to get older. At some point, Conley's going to become a wide backup. He's going to be like Al Horford, right? So you need a point guard who's ready to be that scorer. And he has to be a lightning scorer because the front court, Gobert's going to get worse as he gets older in terms of scoring. Maybe defensively, you might say the same because defensively, a guy like him with his IQ can play into his 40s. I saw Dikembe was still effective into his late 30s defensively. So and of course with the modern technology and the health, I think they're gonna be able to maintain this team success as long as they can keep people to 2030.
For sure. I gotta get out of here, man. We gotta get out of here. But man, we'll be coming back to talk extensively about Atlanta and Memphis' draft, as well as the offseason moves and our outlook on Sunday is coming up really fast. I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of fireworks on Sunday. So we'll have plenty to talk about next time we see you guys. But this has been King Kid and Coach Vaughn's show. I'm Coach Vaughn.
Man, this was a good show.